What episode of a TV show was so bad, it made you stop watching the show entirely? The Walking Dead episode where Glenn didn't die under the dumpster. Heroes. Somewhere in the third season, a character who was all about family turns and does something to his own brother, and I just stopped mid-episode. Altered Carbon, Season 2, Episode 1. It just wasn't the same with Anthony Mackie playing Kovacs. Vikings after Ragnar died. This is kinda cheating, but the last episode of Game of Thrones made me completely uninterested in any of the spin-offs. Tulsa King. I enjoyed Season 1, then in the Season 2 premiere they shoehorned Jelly Roll in for absolutely no reason. Bones. The episode where Zach decided it made perfect sense to be a cannibal. Grey's Anatomy's musical episode. I was willing to forgive a lot. Characters dramatically singing during surgery was where I tapped out. Glee had been bad for a while, but there was an episode that started with Blaine twerking, and that was the moment I decided to not continue with the series. Downton Abbey Christmas episode where a major character out of nowhere dies in a car crash because of a real-life contract dispute basically, made me realize none of this shit matters and it's just a soap opera. Granted, took me far too long. Season 2 finale of Westworld. Ironically, I'm someone who actually liked Season 2 better than Season 1. I went into the Season 1 finale thinking I was going to drop it there, but the twist ending was intriguing enough to me that I gave the second season a shot and actually mostly enjoyed it. But the Season 2 finale was such nonsense that I knew I was done after that. I did watch the Season 3 premiere just to see Marshawn Lynch, which was kind of fun. But the rest of it only confirmed for me that, yeah, I'm not getting anything out of the show anymore. It's not because it was bad, but because the show changed. The last episode of Season 4 of Dexter. Since they had killed a very important character, I lost interest. Though that would have made an amazing series ender. The first episode of most things on Netflix. The Boys S4, E6. The one with Tech Knight dropped my opinion by a huge amount. I didn't stop watching completely. It was just 2 more episodes when Annie started blaming Huey for sleeping with a shapeshifter of her. He didn't know it was a shapeshifter. He still took the blame and was begging for forgiveness. The man was raped and has to beg her for forgiveness. It irritated me so much watching that scene. That's when I decided the show wasn't for me anymore. The episode of Walking Dead when they murder like 100 of Negan's henchmen, but once they capture him, they suddenly decide the moral thing is to not kill him as well. Note to self: never write a musical episode in a TV series. I was a devoted fan of The Biggest Loser until the 2014 finale, when Rachel Fredrickson came out looking scarily underweight and won the competition. I was horrified, and never watched another episode after that. 911 Season 9 premiere. The one with the whale. It was already kind of a bad and campy show to begin with, but that episode ended my teen son's interest in that show altogether. He yelled, "Who writes this crap?" and proceeded to cancel his series recording. Season 9, Episode 1 of the show formerly known as Scrubs. The Witcher Season 3, where they turn it into a musical, stopped after that ep. Didn't even make it through that actually. Grimm. I felt like the show would jump the shark if anything happened to the wife. I just couldn't watch when they threw in a random love triangle. Told myself I wouldn't watch if something happened and was watching a train crash. I noped out immediately. Last episode of second season of Yellow Jackets. Season 3 of The Mandalorian was pretty bad, but the episode with Jack Black and Lizzo was so godawful that I had no interest in finishing it. When Fonzie jumped the shark. I got somewhere in Season 4 of Riverdale, maybe the Hedwig musical episode, before quitting, only to later find out that it gets even more insane than that, and I thought Season 3 was mad. The S3 finale of Sleepy Hollow. Riverdale, because what the fuck? First ep of Blacklist. James Spader was doing all the heavy lifting. The cardboard lead actress did not. I settled for spoilers instead. Bones. Right after Bones gave birth in a stable, and then walked around like it was no big deal. I was already uncomfortable with the anti-Catholic slant, and I say this is an atheist, and the blatant in-show advertising for Ford, but the birth was the last straw. Under the Dome, they had no effing plan for Season 2, it turned into like weird fan fiction. So awful. Scandal, Olivia Pope rigging the presidential election was a bridge too far for me. I turned off the show and never watched it again. I can be expected to sympathize with and root for a traitor. Orange is the New Black. I quit on the season finale of season 3. I remember the scene of the girls in the lake, and then the bed welding scene. I think someone died in the episode. I had enough at that point. I don't want to watch 4 more seasons of it. I didn't want to deal with twice the number of inmates and seeing the girls be demoralized even more. Season 4 Ep 1 of Prison Break. I vibed with the first 3 seasons regardless of quality. 4 just felt insulting. Fire Country, when Bode falsely confessed to the drug relapse and went back to prison at the end of S1. This show was stretching my credibility already, but after that I just gave up. Yeah, the whole Walking Dead Negan introduction episode had me questioning everything. It felt like a cheap shock tactic. The finale of How I Met Your Mother. The Dexter series finale was so incredibly awful, it turned my favorite show ever into a show I couldn't watch anymore. However, 15 years later I did watch Resurrection and Original Sin, and those were great. I just try to ignore season 8. The Jack Black and Lizzo scene in The Mandalorian. I was honestly like, WTF did I just watch? Sex and the City. The few episodes where Carrie is with Berger. Hot take, but I don't really hate Berger that much. But her incessant squeals and insane pick-me behavior fucking floored me and still does every time I watch it. It's like peel yourself out of your skin levels uncomfortable. Ew! The first episode of The Wheel of Time in Amazon. Read the books as a teen and that was so off base and terrible I just could not. I did watch the full first season but hated it from the start and the pathetic last episode. I think this is somewhat relevant, but I never watched Game of Thrones and everyone I know was obsessed with it, so one Sunday while at my buddy's place they convinced me to watch the new episode with them, and if I liked it I'd agree to finally check out the show. Red Wedding I did, not check out the rest of the show lol. Picard, Season 1 Episode 5 Look. I grew up on Voyager, have fond memories of all its characters. It shouldn't have bothered me as much, I guess. But to have 7 of 9's triumphant return as a character start out with her euthanizing one of her former Borg protege kids after he got basically organ harvested, and all in the opening few minutes of the episode? Nope. 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 It still makes me unreasonably angry. Not quite. But the first episode of Billions opened with the wife peeing on Paul Giamatti's face. So many people noped out right there and then. I'm glad I stuck it out. Turned out to be one of the greatest corporate shows ever. Still, why? I gave Rings of Power the benefit of the doubt for the entire first season. Overall thought it was kind of boring and soulless but not terrible. And then the finale happened, and I knew I wasn't coming back for season 2. Absolute garbage. Patrick Duffy comes out of the shower. Letterkenny Fart Book. It's a really well-written show with clever jokes most of the time. And then there's that stinker, both literally and figuratively.